Peace begins right here and right now. Together? Peace begins right here and right now. Those are very powerful words. They carry a lot of energy with them. They're simplistic in the way they sound intellectually, but yet in the way that we're living them from a heart place, that way that we're living them in a moment to moment, can look fairly different from time to time. The beginning of peace always starts within us. As we say repeatedly, if we're wanting oneness in the world, it's crucial and essential that we become one with ourselves. How are we viewing the external world has a lot with the agreements that we've made inside ourselves of how we are going to face different situations in our lives. We're always given the moment of freedom and choice to face moments in our lives either with chaos, with drama, or with a place of peace. A number of you are aware that a couple of months ago, unexpectedly, one of my little Yorkies passed, and he left behind not only me, his mama, but he left behind his other little litter mate, little Major Spencer. And for 2 months, without fail, every day, Major is looking for Sir Digby. And people have all the answers to say that he knows he's here and he's just on the other side and that he's really here and he's not there. And all that is part of the evolution of us. But the point is, he's still looking. So every night, about 2 or 3 a.m., we get up and we go look for something that on the appearance isn't there. And so in the beginning of that, my story was, oh my gosh, and I feel so sad, and what can I do? And I wish I could help, and I could take him upstairs, and if I could take him downstairs, and do I let him cry, and do I do that? And they've never been in a crate in their lives, so they wouldn't know what that is, and what do I do? And so I got into the reaction to the reaction to the reaction of the, what is this now at 3 o'clock in the morning? And now it's 4 because I'm in my head instead of my heart. But the simplification of all that and the point is that what I got is, oh, glory to God. We're now doing a ritual. You know, the Easterners will tell you that if you wake up in the middle of the night and you get up for a moment and you practice the power of meditation, you start having profound things happen into your life. And so once I was able to make that transition of he's helping me out because I've been kind of resisting that Eastern practice of getting up in the middle of the night. You know, I did that once in the military and I'm kind of done with that getting up it's dark, nobody else is up, you know. But because of my little dog and because of something that could be tragic in nature and in some ways on the human dimension it has become now a beautiful practice. And I watch him go in circles, and I watch him look for his brother, and I go, we are practicing the presence. We are practicing, though it may look like we're looking for something magic to happen on the outside, we're really practicing the presence of God on the inside. What a gift. A gift that's not unique to me, a gift to each of us when we step back and go, peace begins right here and right now. How can I see this? How can I experience this in a different way that peace remains unwavering within me? I'm reminded of a story about a woman named Ruth. And Ruth went to her mailbox on Christmas Eve, and there was a letter there. And the letter said, "Dear Ruth, I would love to come and join you tonight for dinner. Love, Jesus." And Ruth was like, can you believe that? There was no stamp on the letter. It didn't show where it came from. What's up? You know, she says. Well, then she went, well, what if it is true? Well, what if Jesus is coming for dinner? I don't have anything in the cupboards. And so she thinks they're going to close by noon. I got to run down. I got to get the food. I don't really have that much money, but I'll get what I got. So she got her turkey. She got her French bread. She was all set. She was walking with her bags in this winter storm, headed home. And all of a sudden, a couple walk up to her. And the couple say, "Ma'am, can you help us out? It's Christmas Eve. We're hungry. We don't have anything to eat." She said, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, but I've got the food I'm carrying, and I've got someone very special coming for dinner tonight, so I'm sorry, I can't really help you out." She continues to start walking, and all of a sudden, she got the essence. Peace begins right here and right now. What I am looking for, I'm actually looking with. She must have been a good Unity student. So she turned around, she walked both of her full bags of groceries to the couple, and she said, "Merry Christmas." And the woman was shivering, so cold. She didn't have a coat. And Ruth took off her coat, gave it to her, and said, "Here, it's yours." When she got home and she was entering in her house and she was trying to process, what's she going to feed Jesus? She looks, there's another letter in her envelope. Another letter in her envelope. There's something about doing that. Anyway, there's a letter in her mailbox. Thank you for sharing. And she looks at it on Christmas Eve. Wow, the mail doesn't run, she says. "Dear Ruth, it was so good to see you again. Thank you for the lovely Christmas dinner. And thank you, too, for the beautiful coat. Love always, Jesus." You see, Suzanne Giesman was exceptional last week, wasn't she? And that she was talking to us about the energy and the presence of God, that she was talking about the power and the presence and the possibilities of who we are in the making and who we can step into being, that Christ consciousness, that Buddha consciousness, that healer practitioner consciousness, that individual level of life that says we can have an extraordinary life. An extraordinary life. I love the story about the naturalist who goes to the chicken farm and he looks at all the chickens, and in the midst of the chicken there's an eagle. And the naturalist, he looks at the chicken farmer and he says, "Don't you get what you have here? There's an eagle. There's an eagle right here." And the farmer said, "Well, he eats chicken food and he hangs out with a chicken and he talks like a chicken, so to me he's just become a chicken." And the naturalist said, "Well, let me take him out to the mountain and see if he will remember who he is. If he'll remember." So he takes him out and he has this moment like he almost remembers. He starts flapping his wings, but then he goes right back to his comfort level of the way he's been trained. He goes right back to that old way of being, back to being a chicken again. But fortunately for him, the naturalist wouldn't let that ideal go. And the naturalist said, "Let me do it again." And so he takes him out on the mountain and he says, "You are an eagle, and it's natural that you are an eagle." And the eagle just, and he totally is into who he was. Who he was. Well, that story is a story about where we are in humanity. In humanity. We are not people being done unto. We are people that are naturally destined by the glory of God to be the most amazing, exhilarating, dynamic, energized people on the planet. That's our purpose. Our purpose is to soar in anything that we face or that we walk through. We must put aside, though, those being chicken memories. We must let the memories of that data and that bombardment of that kind of old law teaching that we don't deserve, that we can't have, that we just have to have a mediocre life. We must be willing to walk away from that idea so we can truly step into what does it take to be an eagle soaring in this life. And for those of us that are really committed to practicing unity, we have more of an opportunity than ever to practice what we really declare that we believe. Because the more the light is coming in, if you haven't noticed, the more the people are trying to remind you, you can't do this, you're a chicken. No, you have to go back, you can't soar. I was going on Monday night south on 41, and there was a billboard about half the size of this sanctuary, and it said, it takes you, it was changing as you were going, it's going to take you 25 more minutes to get to the emergency room. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this where we've gotten that this is what is just being presented to us over and over and over and over again? It's time for us to wake up. This is not okay that we are bombarded with, if you don't have this, you're not going to be that. If you don't have this, you can't be that. If you don't get this shot, you're not going to be that. You're not going to be this. What are we doing? I get kind of revved up about it, okay? I might have to start having like church after church after church, you know. It's like, because we're not people being done unto. We are not people that just do something because somebody else said that we're supposed to. I knew that as a teenager. Hello. And even my parents knew that. Hello. And they weren't into any philosophical practice. They just knew if they told me not to do something, I was going to do it. Blah, 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 blah. Because we are people that are eagles. And eagles, in our declaration, we know how innately to provide ourselves with everything that we need because of the Great Spirit, because of our Creator that has destined us to be it. And the reason that there tends to be still such prolonged pain and suffering is because people go back to being in the chicken field instead of soaring like an eagle. Because we will never be able to play smaller than that we are destined to be, and we'll keep calling in all kinds of situations to irritate, aggravate, or uplift us so that we can go, oh, that's right. I had this temporary moment like I forgot who I was. I'm so surrounded with what the weather's going to be. And by the way, Reverend Russell sent me a text this morning. There was snow in his parking lot. So let's all wave and tell him hi. No. Yay! I didn't mean that to sound condescending. I really didn't. He's the one that started it, not me. But we, in our divine potential, we learn that we can be that soaring presence. But for peace to begin right here and right now, we want to get clear that first and foremost, we listen intuitively and instinctively to that which we know we need to do. No one can ever tell us what our truth is. And that was the original innate idea of New Thought. Of all the Norman Vincent Peale, Think and You Will Grow Rich, The Science of Getting Rich, the Emmett Fox, the Eric Butterworth, a lot of the leaders, Myrtle and Charles, and all those came before to tell people, you don't believe all this stuff. You're being duped. Don't believe all this stuff. Rise high. Life is not designed to be hard. If it's hard, we have a believability about that. It's supposed to be filled with pleasure and joy. Do you agree with this? Do you hold that space for yourself? To hold that space for yourself. Good. In Ephesians, we are told in Scripture that when you have the calling and that we are all here to lead a life worthy of which we've been called, original and unique as we are, here to be called with all humility and gentleness, with patience, hearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body and one spirit, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God, one Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all, and each of us have been given the grace in order to realize our calling. It's already been done. It's already been done. We said goodbye to one of the world's greatest leaders this past week, Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela taught us so much about what it's like to be in prison and with the possibilities of what you can be in your becomingness. Many of us in life, when we believe certain limitations about ourselves, when we believe we can only do so much or be so much, that's another subtle form of being in prison. It's another subtle way of not really feeling free to soar. But Nelson Mandela, when people said, how do you do it? How did you do it? How did you get to be somebody that was in prison for 27 years doing hard labor, and you went on then to be the president? How is that possible? And he said, the person that went to prison could have never been the president. The person that showed up in that space was the chicken in the chicken field. He didn't say that, but I'm tying in the point. That was that person. That was the person that was angry. That was the person that was being someone they were not. That was the person that somebody said, you can't ever do this. That was that person that was angry because I wasn't being me. That was that person. But when I had a shift in prison, I became aware that if I would use the experience and think about what I was going to do with it to make a difference, he said it was that shift that changed him, that he then started stepping into the consciousness that would allow him to be strong and have the strength to be the president. Wow, what an awareness. Peace begins right here, right now. We start where we are. We look at the ways in which we have allowed ourselves to be influenced, allowed ourselves to be chameleons, allowed ourselves to fit in and be like other people and all that and be cool. And we step into a greater place and say, what is it like to really be me? If I gave any Christmas gift this year and I was really the true, authentic, extraordinary me, what would that be like? Wow. Wow, what would that feel like? What would it look like? How could I step into that in a way with believability, with sincerity, and say, isn't it time? If not now, when? I was meeting with some of our board members this week, and we have our new mantra is shining our beam in 2014. Shining our beam in 2014. And we will grow into that. We don't be a little bitty piddly light, we're going to be a big bright light, you see. So it's that space. I'm going to close with another favorite story of mine about a monastery that people were starting to not show up, and the leader was kind of concerned because it was kind of dilapidating. The energy wasn't really present. There was not a lot going on. And so he went up on the mountain to meet with one of the elders, and he was hoping to get some wisdom. You know, just tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to do in order to turn this around. So he goes and he has tea with the elder, and he sits there and he keeps waiting for him to give him some kind of golden nugget. Well, he doesn't. And so he says, well, I had a good time and thank you, but I was hoping you'd give me something because we need help down there in the valley. And the elder looks at him and he says, one of you is the Christ. What? One of us is the Christ? Well, that kind of lit him up. Kind of freed him because he started thinking differently. Started holding that place of peace begins right here, right now. One of us is the Christ. Wow. Who would that be? Who would that be? What would that look like? Is it Mary Gherkin? You know, is that who it is? Is it Roger McCormick? Is that who it is? Who is the Christ? Is it that guy on AV behind the video? Chris? Chris Harker, that's kind of like Heart the Herald Angels sings. Guys, you know, is that who it is? Who is it? Is it Doug? Linda? Is it that young girl over there? Who is the Christ? And the more he started thinking about this, the more he got energized. And he went in and everybody said, who's the Christ? No, they said, what did he tell you? He said, he told me that one of us is the Christ. So they started looking at each other that way. Are you it? Who is it? Is it you? Is it one of you? Is it someone that's new here today? It's each and every one of us. It's each and every one of us that has that potential, as Unity tells us, to live by example. Just like our friend and teacher Jesus did, we can step into that space and be an example of Christ consciousness. Peace begins right here and right now because we decide to be free. And by being free, we accept that we can soar. Thank you for being here today. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.